Hello again, and now I'd like to introduce you to the concept of subpersonalities. So subpersonalities, what are they? The people inside us. Now, a great guy, John Rowan, has written several books. He's one of the few people who has written about subpersonalities, and I had the great pleasure of meeting with John back in the 90s, early 90s, and when he had published his books on subpersonalities, the people inside us, and it was a great revelation to me, and I found it really, really helpful, and I hope you will too. So let's look at what they are, but before we do that, I'm asking you to make sure your phone's off, and Facebook and emails and all of those things, and get your pen and paper, your journal, because there's lots of things to take note of. So what are subpersonalities? The people inside us. What does that mean? Where do they come from? So subpersonalities are aspects of our personality, and they're sub-aspects of our personality. So for example, you could have, you've often heard of children at school, let's go for children, where the parent thinks, oh God, he's a little devil, he's always up to mischief, always getting into trouble, he's into everything. And she goes to pick him up from school, and the teacher says, he's such an angel, he's such a lovely boy, and he's so quiet. And mother thinks, is this the same child you're talking about? Is this my child? But also you would hear people saying it about their husbands. He's a home devil and a street angel. This way that people have of being, really maybe nasty and horrid at home, but when they're in work or school or other places, they're really charming and pleasant and nice. So it's that, I've covered some of this in the Jekyll and Hyde, discovering your Jekyll and Hyde, because we all have them. But the Jekyll and Hyde are actually subpersonalities, and you'll hear as I go on that they can be polarized. So it's that having different aspects to yourself, like somebody who's a really kind, caring person at home may be like a maniac when they get behind the wheel of a car. You will also have heard people saying, well, I don't know what got into me. So that will be when a subpersonality has jumped into the driving seat. So I'm just going to go over and just touch on, because there's a lot to cover in this, and I'm just going to go through it quickly. I suggest, if you are interested, that you delve deeper, because I could have a whole course on this topic of subpersonalities alone. So we all have what's called a protector controller, and that's a part of us that looks out to make sure we're safe. And so, any sense of things getting out of control, our protector controller will tend to either come in with some controlling behavior or pull us out and find something else to do, a distraction. So I just want you to begin to familiarize yourself with the ideas here. So we all have a protector controller. We also have an inner critic, particularly if, like this child here, you've got a parent who is particular, if you had a parent who was quite critical, you may find that you have an aspect of you that is critical of you. Also, we all have a pusher, some to a greater extent than others, but somebody who's gonna push us and, you oughta, you should, you must, do this or that or whatever. It makes life uncomfortable for us, and that ties in a lot with our controlling parent and our ego states. We may have a perfectionist, a bit of us who's a bit of a stickler for detail and the way things should be done or ought to be done. We may have a nurturing parent. Perhaps we were very nurtured and cared for as a child, and so maybe we tend to be caregiving and nurturing with people. That might be an aspect of us. There may be another aspect of us who couldn't care less. But sometimes, in some situations, we can be very nurturing and caring. So sometimes we can go from one thing to the other. We can be very hardworking, or we can be a slob. We can be very serious, or we can be fun-loving. There are different sides to us. So as we go through, notice, do any of these ring a bell for you? We all have an inner child, and these are all aspects of our inner child. Either a free child that likes to have fun, a wonder child that is full of, oh, look at those stars in the sky. You know, that would be our part of our inner child that sees the wonder of things. The wounded child who can feel hurt quite easily sometimes in some situations. The adapted child who wants to be approved of and do the right thing. Or the rebel child who thinks, oh, blow it, I'm going to just do what I want. So they're all aspects of the inner child, but you know, we all have one that's more or less developed and becomes a subpersonality. So the other place that subpersonalities develop is there are cultural stereotypes. There's Irish, there's Scottish, there's Indian, there's Chinese. You know, all our different nationalities and cultures have particular stereotypes. So I'll leave you to sort those ones out yourself. But also Carl Jung talked about archetypes, which are common throughout history and through, irrespective of nationalities and cultures. There will be the magician, there will be the wise man, the king, the ruler, the wise men, the three wise men. There will be the warrior, there will be the clown or the jester, and there will be the lovers. These are, and the king, the ruler. These are all archetypes. We all know what they mean, and actually we tend to, at different stages of life, move, you know, maybe as a young adult, there's a bit of the warrior about us, or you know, mid-adulthood, there's lover about us, there's a clown when we're younger. When we're older, perhaps we become wise and something of a magician. We learn how to make things happen, and we become leaders and rulers as well. So these archetypes influence, you know, the hero is an archetype too. So these archetypes influence our subpersonalities. Also the work that we do and our family roles, you know, if we're a father, we may be kind of paternal towards other people. We may be the one who gets to do all the clearing up. If you go visit people, I'll do the dishes. The teacher takes on a teacher role, or caregiving. All of these things influence how we develop subpersonalities, and sometimes overdevelop subpersonalities. So you might want to talk about what subpersonalities you recognize in yourselves and each other, and how maybe they clash with each other sometimes, and which you are you relating to. So looking at the family roles, you'll see in any family, often there's one who's the clown, and there's one who's the clever one, the mascot, one who's the scapegoat who gets into trouble. There'll be an invisible child, the one who just melts into the wallpaper and stays quiet. There'll be mother's little helper. and there'll be the little princess. And people adapt those roles at home, and they tend to carry them into their adult life. So we've done that one. So from those family roles we develop life scripts, and we play out those roles that we had in our family. And you know, here the little girl in the dunce's corner, if in school, if we were told that we were stupid, or we had some people get a particularly bad teacher who doesn't like them and gives them negative messages, and it can affect their whole life. They live out that script of I'm stupid. And you know, if they're the bright one, if they're the hero, the champion, the winner, as I said before, the little princess, or a blamer, you know, all of these help to develop different subpersonalities. So what do we do about them? What's the use of knowing all of this? Well, what we need to do is to learn to recognize them, to accept them, to befriend them, and to integrate them. So it's getting to know yourself, and getting to know your partner, and getting to know where different subpersonalities clash with each other. So, you know, it takes a bit of time. Maybe when we have the question and answer session, you can perhaps ask me more about this if you don't know. So they do tend to be polarities. For example, we may have a very caring subpersonality, but we've probably got an uncaring one too. If you're clever, there's probably some things that you feel stupid about. You may be a winner, but in other areas you feel like you're a loser. So all of these subpersonalities have an equal and opposite part, and that is part of what makes up our Jekyll and Hyde. And so part of our personal development and how we can help each other as a couple is to recognize our subpersonalities and the polarities that we've got, and that's the first step towards integrating those opposite aspects of your personality and how you behave, so that you're not, you know, either, you know, up and, you know, happy or in the pits. You know, you're not swinging from one extreme to the other. So the exercise I'd like you to do is to write a list of 5 prominent people who come to mind that you admire or dislike. Write a word that describes their character, and what would each one say is the most important thing in life, because these people that you come up with will represent some aspect of your subpersonalities, and they will give you some useful information about you. So I hope you find that useful. Bye for now.